Words were not power. Take it from a professional writer. The only place where words have power are scrawled on a bathroom wall. The only effect of the words of powerless people on the internet was to inflict misery on other powerless people. When you need to defeat the hand, make the fingers attack each other. Divide and conquer. Hi, I'm back with another book review. This time it's I Hate the Internet by Jarett Kobek, who is a Turkish-American author living in California. The book itself is set in San Francisco in 2013, so in the fairly recent past, although quite a lot has happened in the last 5 years, so things have changed. I didn't know too much about this book. I'd never heard of the author. I just picked it up on a whim, but I quite like the way that it starts. It starts with a woman called Adeline who makes 3 mistakes. One is being a woman in a culture that hates women. The other is being kind of famous. And then the third thing is publicly expressing unpopular opinions. And I read that and I thought that sounded really interesting because it's so true. If you are a woman, if you are slightly famous, or if you're in a public forum and you express something unpopular, then you will get a lot of hate. So those were her three little mistakes that she made. The book is a novel, but it's really more of a social commentary. So although Adeline is supposedly the main character, a lot of the book is the author speaking directly to us about misogyny, about racism, about social inequality, homophobia, about money, about the power that money has and the things that it can buy, about social media and Twitter and when you're trolling someone on Twitter, you're making money for Twitter. But equally, if you're an activist campaigning against bigotry or arguing with the trolls or celebrating liberal ideas on Twitter, you are making money for Twitter, an organisation that was designed by privileged white men to make themselves money. And what the author points out is that you're probably using a device or a phone that's been built by slave labour in another country. It's at times quite a depressing book. It's quite thought-provoking because he's basically just tearing to shreds our entire society and the way that we live our lives now, and things that control our lives that we assume that we have some agency, and yet we don't really. George Bush II, the predecessor of Barack Obama in the office of presidency, was a truly horrible president. George Bush II had driven America insane. Things were bad enough that a majority of the country temporarily put aside their racism and elected an African American into the highest office in the land. 8 years earlier, this was thought impossible. Most people believed that they would be dead before America elected a black man to the presidency. So that was something like a functioning model of American progress. Change is only achieved once half the country is crazy enough to forget that they participate in a system of institutionalized racism. It's set in San Francisco, which the author describes as the most beautiful city full of the most annoying people. A general theme throughout the book is the gentrification of San Francisco. So what used to be a city that was a haven for alienated hippies and artists is now a city that is purely driven by making money. So there's Google buses driving around and there's skyrocketing rents, so everyone is moving out of the city one by one. So Adeline finds all her friends leaving her because they're all having to leave because they can't afford to live in San Francisco anymore. The social construction of the white race was pseudoscience, revolving around the misapprehension that inessential physical features represented biological distinctions among members of the human species. Of all the inessential features that led to the social construction of the white race, differences in skin pigmentation were the most prominent. There was a widely held belief among members of the white race that their skin was uncoloured and thus white. In fact, members of the white race were an unfortunate pink, somewhere around the shade of a newborn piglet. I highly recommend this book. I found it really interesting. Like I said, it's not a novel in the traditional sense. It's not plot-driven. It introduces characters, but there's no real development. It's set in a fairly short amount of time. It feels like a few months that pass. And it is just a lot of the author sharing his grievances really about modern society, but it's really hard to deny the points that he makes that are all incredibly intelligently made. He points out, he talks about Jack Kirby. He crops up. He actually calls him the main character in the book. He actually says at one point, this isn't a good novel because the main character never actually appears. But he says the book is entirely about Jack Kirby, who is an artist that worked for Marvel, who designed many of their characters, including the Avengers, superheroes, but sold the rights to them, or he was paid for hire, so he just got paid a nominal sum and then had no rights to his creations and made no money from what were incredibly successful characters for the Marvel company. I found the ending a little underwhelming. It just seemed to kind of end, but I guess that kind of fits with the fact that it's not a traditional novel with a beginning, middle and end. It's not about a book where there's going to be a resolution, a happy ending or a sad ending. There's no kind of resolution. It's just, this is life, this is stuff that happens, it just keeps going, which is one of the reasons why it's a little bit grim. But I definitely recommend it. It's different and I really enjoyed it. So I hope you liked this video. If you did, please give me a like, and if you want more book reviews and other videos, please subscribe. Bye!